Good morning, and thank you for attending Toronto Crime Stoppers and the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council OMVIC Partnership and Crime Prevention Media Launch. My name is Mark Madramuda, your host for today's event. I'm the Director and Coordinator assigned to the Toronto Crime Stoppers program, which is assigned to the Community Engagement and Partnership Unit, overseen and led by Acting Deputy Chief Kelly Skinner, Superintendent Greg Watts, and Inspector Paul Rinkoff. Before we continue, I would like to read the land acknowledgement for Toronto. We acknowledge the land we are meeting on is the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and is now home to many diverse nations, Inuit and Métis. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. I'd like to take this time to formally recognize some of our honored guests who will be sharing their remarks with you this morning. Acting Deputy Chief of the Toronto Police Service, Kelly Skinner, OMVIC CEO and Registrar, Maureen Harquell, and the Chair of Toronto Crime Stoppers, Mr. Sean Sporton. As well, we would like to recognize and thank the Toronto Police Service Board, Toronto Police Service Command and members, Toronto Crime Stoppers Board and team, OMVIC personnel, and you, the media, for your continued support to the Toronto Crime Stoppers program and dedication to enhance public safety. At this time, I would like to introduce the Acting Deputy Chief of the Toronto Police Service, Kelly Skinner, to share her remarks.
Good morning, everyone. Members of the Toronto Crime Stoppers and Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, members of our service and guests, thank you all for being here today. On behalf of our service, I am pleased to be here to support this partnership between Crime Stoppers and OMVIC. In my role at Field Services Command, I oversee the Community Partnership and Engagement Unit, otherwise known as CPU, which we heard earlier is led by Superintendent Greg Watts. Toronto Crime Stoppers is a unit within CPU, and they play an integral role in crime prevention initiatives and programs that help address public safety. We all know that community safety and well-being is a shared responsibility, and that for us to really ensure the safety of Torontonians, we have to take this collaborative approach to public safety. This partnership campaign promotes public safety by enhancing community safety awareness around fraud as it pertains to unregistered motor vehicles and industry noncompliance. This will also serve to protect the car-buying public, as well as hold offenders accountable. Every year, Toronto Crime Stoppers is responsible for processing thousands of anonymous tips in relation to public safety and crime. This information is used by us at the Toronto Police Service to help lay charges, to help our investigators make arrests, and keep our community safe and reduce victimization in our neighborhoods. We're confident in this initiative's success and in its ability to remind Torontonians that they have the option to report crime anonymously to Crime Stoppers. I'd like to thank Crime Stoppers and OMVIC for the collaboration on this program and for being a very valuable partner to the Toronto Police Service and our community. Thank you.
Thank you, Acting Deputy Chief Skinner. At this time, I would like to invite CEO and Registrar Maureen Harquell from the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, OMVIC, to share her remarks.
Thank you, Mark, and good morning, everyone. I want to thank the Toronto Police Service, including Acting Deputy Chief Kelly Skinner, for having us here today and for bringing attention to this new initiative. And of course, a big thank you to the Chair of Toronto Crime Stoppers Board of Directors, Sean Sporton, and Coordinator Detective Mark Madramuda for working with OMVIC to create this important partnership. As Mark mentioned, my name is Maureen Harquell, and I'm the CEO and Registrar of the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, better known as OMVIC. OMVIC has been delegated responsibility for administering and enforcing the Motor Vehicle Dealers Act, which regulates motor vehicle sales in the province of Ontario. The objective of this partnership is to raise awareness about the issue of illegal motor vehicle sales in Ontario, how to best protect yourself as a car-buying consumer while working to improve the safety of the communities that we live in. This partnership will allow OMVIC to utilize the extremely effective infrastructure and processes Toronto Crime Stoppers has had in place for 39 years. As a result, Ontarians will benefit by being able to submit an anonymous tip to identify individuals involved in illegal motor vehicle sales activity to the police and bring those who break the law to justice where possible. The motor vehicle crime we see often involves curbsiders, who are a serious problem in the motor vehicle industry. Curbsiders are individuals who pose as private sellers, pretending to sell a personal motor vehicle, but they are really in business of buying and selling vehicles for profit without a license or a registration, which is illegal in Ontario. Also, curbsiders often misrepresent the vehicles they're selling, which can result in consumer harm. Curbsiding is an issue that is on the rise due to vehicle inventories, the soaring costs of cars, and continued supply chain disruptions. Our enforcement team at OMVIC is responsible for conducting investigations of alleged breaches of the Motor Vehicle Dealers Act. We have investigators that are appointed as provincial offense officers with the ability to lay charges when infractions are uncovered. In 2022, our investigation team laid a total of 2,115 charges, more than double the total of 2021, including more than 1,000 charges against alleged curbsiders, and this number has been increasing annually. OMVIC estimates that at least 30% of vehicles listed online are for sale by owner, are placed by curbsiders. The increase in curbsiders has resulted in a steady rise of consumer complaints to OMVIC about odometer rollbacks, poor vehicle condition, and significant non-disclosure issues in private sales. As you may know, private sales of motor vehicles are not covered by the Motor Vehicle Dealers Act, so there is nothing that OMVIC can do to help consumers who are defrauded by curbsiders. We have also seen an increase in motor vehicle theft due to the shortage of vehicles and the demand for them both at home and abroad. Approximately 50% of stolen vehicles are exported. The remaining vehicles are often revinned and sold either through private sales or even registered dealers. Some of those dealers are victims of fraud themselves, while others are complicit. Stolen vehicles are often revinned and sold, which has led to an increase in people calling OMVIC to complain that they were the victim of a curbsider or purchased a stolen vehicle from a registered dealer. With the increase of private consumer sales, including through Marketplace and Kijiji, it's easier than ever to sell motor vehicles to unsuspecting consumers, often enticing them with prices that really are too good to be true. On these private consumer sites, it's difficult to know whether a vehicle has been stolen, if it's safe to drive, or if it's been tampered with. Because of this, it has become even more important to raise consumer awareness about the illegal sales activity and the risks involved with purchasing a motor vehicle. Bringing attention to these serious issues and reinforcing the importance of buying from an OMVIC registered dealer is critical to all vehicle consumers across the province of Ontario. OMVIC takes illegal motor vehicle sales and activity seriously, and because of that, we want to ensure that members of the community have a way to anonymously report any illegal activity they see. We are happy to be part of this collaboration, working with Toronto Crime Stoppers towards greater consumer protection and holding those participating in illegal motor vehicle sales activity accountable for their actions. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Arkell, for those remarks. At this time, Chair of Toronto Crime Stoppers, Mr. Sean Sporton, will be sharing his remarks.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you and good morning for all of you attending here today. Thank you, Acting Deputy Chief Skinner, for your continued support, and Ms. Harkle for you and OMVIC's support on this initiative as well. Toronto Crime Stoppers recognizes the critical importance partnerships hold in the prevention of crime and the positive impact such collaborations can have on protecting the vital interests of the community. That's why today, on behalf of the Toronto Crime Stoppers Board of Directors, we are excited to announce a new partnership with the Ontario Motor Vehicle Industry Council, OMVIC. This partnership aligns well with the collaborative goal of enhancing community safety. Moreover, it highlights an additional layer of protection for the car-buying public when it comes to combating illegal vehicle sales. The objective of this partnership and awareness campaign is straightforward. Raise awareness in the community about illegal vehicle sales and activity in Toronto and across the province of Ontario. Let the offenders know the industry is taking notice. And lastly, provide the community with an anonymous crime reporting platform to identify individuals involved in this type of crime to the police by contacting Crime Stoppers anonymously. By working together with proactive campaigns like this, Toronto Crime Stoppers will continue to make a difference in the prevention of crime across our city and across the province. Community safety truly is a shared responsibility. We must all work together with a collaborative goal to make a difference in the prevention of crime while enhancing the overall safety of the community. Crime Stoppers is committed in our efforts to mobilize the community to see it, say it, stop it for a safer Toronto. Doing the right thing truly is its own reward. Remember, you remain anonymous, criminals don't. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sporton, for those remarks. In closing, at this time, we would like to thank Acting Deputy Chief Kelly Skinner, the OMVIC CEO and Registrar Maureen Harkwell, Sean Sporton, for sharing those words with us, and all of you attending today's media launch. We value the time of our honored guests and open the floor to any questions that the media may have for them. Please remember, keep your questions themed to this campaign. Thank you.
My question is actually personal. So 2021, bought a new car, moved into a new house. We have it for 6 months, car stolen while we were asleep. We had to wait 6 months later to, have the new car be delivered. We had it 6 months. It was stolen while we were at home. So we're selling our house, and we actually just sold to move to a new neighborhood because it's just going to happen again. Community safety. Can you talk about that?
Certainly. Can I have the deputy address that?
So as a service, we always deploy our resources strategically to make sure that we're, meeting operational needs and we're addressing concerns in the city. And carjackings, vehicle thefts are a major concern for Torontonians, and all of us are concerned about it. Our organized crime teams are working right now collaboratively with partners to advance investigations, and our divisions are working integratedly and with a local focus. So we have a whole of service approach to how we're addressing this very, very serious crime. So I understand you, I hear you. We wish that there was more that we could do to stop. This is, there are a lot of partners that have to get involved to ensure that we're addressing this crime, but I want you to know that we are doing everything that we can as a service to address this issue.
In the old days, we used to be able to check on license plates and whatnot at the kiosks to determine whether or not a car was registered to someone. Is that not, are we not able to do that anymore? Because wouldn't that be helpful in terms of preventing theft or preventing that you're buying a car that's stolen?
We don't want to address that, but I know that it's still available at the Service Ontario kiosks. If I'm incorrect, please let me know that you can do the driver's or the vehicle abstract. Yeah. Okay, I'll let Maureen address that.
Thank you for that question. And listen, one of the things that we do at OMVIC is really about trying to empower the people of Ontario to have the tools that they need when they go and they want to buy a car. And of course, the first thing we say is, go to an OMVIC registered dealer, because then you will have the protections that are part of the legislation. For example, we have a compensation fund that can be there if consumers have a bad experience with a motor vehicle purchase or lease. When it comes to buying a vehicle, the private sales, or curbsiders, because sometimes you're not sure who you're dealing with. We obviously, another thing we really strongly encourage people to do is to get a UVIP, a used vehicle information package, to give you that knowledge about where that vehicle's been, what kind of information, everything that you can get before you actually put down the money and buy that vehicle. So those are the kinds of things that we do to try to really empower citizens to go and make that smart vehicle purchase.
You call it a used vehicle information package, but you can get that through a Service Ontario kiosk for like $20, right?
You can. It's my understanding. I don't know if it's 20.
Save more money buying from a curbside or somebody who's doing a private sale than from an OMVIC registered used car dealership. Wouldn't it make more sense to just do that? Like $20 to go get a vehicle abstract?
So listen, private sales in the province of Ontario happen all the time, and there's nothing wrong with a private sale, but you have to do your homework to make sure you are actually getting a private sale and a vehicle that meets the standards and that it's roadworthy, for example, that the odometer hasn't been rolled back. And that's always the worry when you're buying, we'll call it privately or through curbsiders. Chances are if you're buying through a curbsider, there's something wrong with that vehicle. The odometer's been rolled back, that it could be a rebuilt wreck. There could be a lot of things wrong with that vehicle. So really, buyer beware. You have protections if you buy from an OMVIC registered dealer.
Curbsider for us again.
Yeah, so a curbsider is an illegal motor vehicle seller. So it's someone who is selling a motor vehicle in the province of Ontario for business, and they do not have a license from OMVIC. The Motor Vehicle Dealers Act requires that if you are going to sell motor vehicles in the province of Ontario, you must have a license from us.
But people can do private sales. Like, for example, I want to sell my car here. He can just go and get a vehicle abstract for $20 and then, yeah.
Absolutely. There's nothing motor vehicle sales. Again, it's buyer beware, though.
When it comes to Crime Stoppers, what type of financial incentive are we going to have for people to report this? Because we all know when it comes to money, that gets people talking and,
For sure. Great question. But first, Bakari, I'll add on to the deputy's response to your first question. Us being here today in partnership with not only our law enforcement partners in the Toronto Police Service, but also OMVIC, is showing that there's the collaboration in the industry, in the community, that we know that auto theft, however it's happening, whether it be through fraud or auto theft and carjackings and all that, that we're taking notice and we're creating the awareness that we need in the community. In order for, in most cases, the Toronto Police Service to be more effective at their jobs, we need the community to start reporting things. And when tips come into Crime Stoppers, you remain anonymous. You'll never be able to identify you. But it could be key information that, from an OMVIC perspective, that could lead and peel that onion back to something greater, right? So I just want to reinforce the collaboration of why we're here today for victims like yourself. When it comes to Toronto Crime Stoppers, we have created an MOU with OMVIC on putting rewards to people that call in regarding this. However, as you know, Toronto Crime Stoppers removed reward payouts back in 2020, and we've had nothing but success. And what we found is it's not a motivating factor in most cases for people to get a monetary value of giving information. They're doing it to make their community safe. That being said, we have entered into that because we want to make sure that we do cover that base. If we're not getting tips, we can start promoting that aspect of it as well. No worries.
Can we speak to the process of rebinning vehicles? Is there anybody that can do that?
Sure.
Thank you for the question. We'll have a representative from OMVIC.
Yeah, so just walk us through what happens in a rebinning. How easy or difficult is it, for somebody to do and for the parties involved? What do they do in the process?
So revinning is essentially a motor vehicle fraud, and revinning is the process of re-identifying a motor vehicle. So it's creating a false identity for a motor vehicle to mask the fact that it's actually a stolen motor vehicle. And so there are many ways that organized motor vehicle crime groups will engage in this. And, you know, I'm not going to go through the process step by step because I'm not here to educate criminals or any would-be criminals. But suffice to say that the idea behind it is to create a new identity for a stolen vehicle so that stolen vehicle can now be sold to an unsuspecting consumer, sometimes an unsuspecting motor vehicle dealer, as we've seen, and sometimes to mask its identity for the purpose of export.
What happens if you buy a vehicle that's been stolen? Like, let's just say I went and bought a car from my neighbor and it turned out it was stolen. First, how do you even figure that out as police? And then secondly, what happens to me? Do you eventually just take the car back, or I mean, what happens?
So if your vehicle is identified through, many times we have projects on the go with Toronto Police and other police services, and if your vehicle is identified as being a REVIN vehicle, it will be seized by the police and it will be examined to determine its true identity. Once its true identity is determined, usually it belongs to an insurance company at that point, so it'll be returned to the insurance company. And unfortunately, the consumer who bought that vehicle is now a victim of fraud. And if you bought that vehicle privately, there's really not much that you can do, short of the police laying charges and perhaps upon conviction looking to obtain some sort of a restitution order. Now, if you had purchased that vehicle from a registered motor vehicle dealer, registered through OMVIC, then there is a compensation fund that is available to members of the public. But that's only if you purchase a vehicle through an OMVIC registered dealer.
Otherwise, you could be completely out of your money. Put down 10 grand, it's gone.
It's gone.
So can you tell us, there's obviously some shady dealers out there. How many charges have been laid against dealerships over the last couple of years or whatever? Can you give a stat on that at all?
I can tell you that last year we laid about 1,000 charges against registrants. So either salespeople or motor vehicle dealers. Last year was around 1,000 charges.
And is there any way the consumer can get a list of dealerships that might be susceptible, that are dodgy?
Yeah, absolutely. Our website is totally open and available to members of the public, and so you can search a dealer or a salesperson if you go to omvic.ca.
And can you elaborate on, I guess, the measures that have been taken to not only prosecute but identify those people working for Service Ontario motor vehicles who were involved in the theft ring previously?
So that's more of a, I think, a question posed for law enforcement. We do work very closely with our law enforcement partners because many times our investigators are usually the ones that will identify some of these patterns, and then we will notify police of local jurisdiction, and oftentimes we will be running parallel investigations.
All right, and OMVIC, it's a privately run organization, or?
It's a not-for-profit organization.
Can I have your name, sir? We didn't get your name.
Last question.
I might just get one more just general question, just a clarion call to, just everyday people to kind of step up and, not be afraid to call and report, what they're seeing or what they're hearing.
Yeah, I'll take that one. So from a Crime Stopper perspective, we do really need the public to step up and report anything they see, not just with crimes related to OMVIC and illegal sales of vehicles, but anything in the community. As we said a few weeks ago when we did our illegal firearm campaign, the community needs to step up. They need to be a part of the solution to reporting, and we get that there's the code of silence and the snitches get stitches, but Ideally, when you look at that term, it was created by criminals for criminals who told it on other criminals, right? It's not for the average community member that's in our city. We need your help. We need you to step up. We need you to speak. Call Crime Stoppers. You remain anonymous. Your safety is never going to be at risk unless you yourself go and tell people that you've called Crime Stoppers.
Are there any plans that sort of tell people that they're going to lose their money if their vehicle turns out to be re-bin? That sort of de-incentivizes people to say, hey, this vehicle might be stolen, right? Because now I might be out 10 grand. Are there any plans to possibly work with insurers and the provincial or federal government to possibly change that so there is some sort of compensation?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that question specifically is aligned to what we're doing here today, but I mean, I guess the message would be for anything that you purchase, right? Even if it's retail goods on Marketplace, could that be linked to retail organized crime? If it's too good to be true, maybe it is. You should do your due diligence, as what was said, when you're going to be purchasing, especially a vehicle. Obviously it's going to be a higher value. There's going to be, considerable issues with vehicles, as we all have, right, when it comes to maintenance. And I think doing your due diligence on what you're purchasing is the message for any consumer of any product when you're going to be purchasing it.
What happens if you go and get your insurance? Like,
Thank you.
obviously,
We can continue after. Thank you to our participants this morning, and thank you to the media for attending. Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.